প্রিয় স্বামীজি পুরুষ সিংহ, হে প্রিয় স্বামীজি পুরুষ সিংহ, তুমি ভারতের প্রাণ, তুমি ভারতের প্রাণ। হে প্রিয় স্বামীজি পুরুষ সিংহ, তুমি ভারতের প্রাণ, তুমি ভারতের প্রাণ। ধন্যবাদীকে হয়েছি আমরা, ধন্যবাদীকে হয়েছি আমরা, দুনিয়া তোমারি দান, তুমি ভারতের প্রাণ, তুমি ভারত।
Get much more from Mr. Sugata Bose, who has been invited for you today. He is an erudite scholar, good speaker, and he is a man of backbone. He is lived a life of teacher. He has acquired Swami Vivekananda's teachings in his own life. He prepared himself in the light of education of Swami Vivekananda, Ramakrishna. I adore him, I honor him. He is a great teacher who will tell you just now. So all of you are welcomed by this Ramakrishna Mutt, and we have been celebrating such programs one after another. Next 12th Friday, Central Modern School will come. There's a bigger number of students will come. There is the same program by different speaker, and every speaker has got his own angle of focusing. So every time on the same subject, you get it from some other speakers, you will get enlightened. I thank you all and the teachers. For them I extend my hearty welcome and thanks to all of you.
श्रीयतिराजाय विवेकानन्दसूरये सच्चित्स्वरूपाय स्वामिने तापहारिणे. Welcome to all of you. Madam Principal, I don't know if you are there, but I have got on a chit your name written, Mrs. Banerjee. Welcome if you are here. And all the students of Aditya Academy School, I hope I got the name right.
Principal ma'am is not here.
Adit, okay. Sorry. Please, all the teachers, my felicitations to all of you. Aditya Academy Senior Secondary School, Damdam. Yes. I greet you all in the name of Swamiji, even as Swamiji had greeted all of America and the world, 7,000 strong on the 11th of September 1893 at Chicago. The occasion was the celebration of the Quatercentenary of Columbus's landing in the United States of America. In those days it was not United States though. The United States was born in 1776. Now, Columbus had been trying to discover India. Perhaps you must be knowing, you're in 11 and 12, India was a very rich country, India still is, although the wealth distribution is rather bad. India has been perennially very rich, both in material resources and spiritual resources, and the European explorers tried to discover a route to India. Finally, Vasco da Gama did reach India in 1498. But 6 years before that, Christopher Columbus, in his bid to reach India, actually reached America and discovered the new land. Many years later, it was said that Columbus had discovered the soil of America, but Vivekananda discovered the soul of America. So 1492, Columbus had reached America, and 1892 it was, and there was a rush for the quatercentenary. If you do not know what quatercentenary means, it means the 400th year celebration. So, and all the cities, major cities of America, of United States, they were vying for the prestigious bid for, to host the Chicago Fair. Finally, I'm sorry, not Chicago Fair, the centenary, the quatercentenary celebrations of Columbus. Finally, Chicago won the auction bid, and it was decided that Chicago would host all these. Now, very often we talk of the Chicago lectures, but remember the Chicago lecture was a minuscule part. You say minuscule, I know it's minuscule, minuscule, minuscule. It was a very small part of the World's Fair which was held. There were many scientific sections in the, you may have heard of Thomas Alva Edison. He had invented the DC generator, and all these were on display. In fact, when Swamiji reached America, for the first 12 days, he was captivated by all the scientific progress and all the inventions and all that were on display there. So all the countries of the world had been invited to display all their inventions, different aspects of culture, and one thing that could not have been left out surely was religion, because it touches us most, for it touches man in his depth. And so it was arranged that towards the end of the Chicago Fair, where many other things would be hosted, the World Parliament of Religions would also be hosted. Now, Swamiji was a mendicant monk, and being a Hindu sannyasi, not used to the ways of the world, he landed in Chicago without any credentials. He was not a formal representative of any religion as such, or of any religious organization. Can you understand what I'm saying? I just want feedback from the students, because sometimes I speak in high-flown English. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine. Thank you. Then I may continue. So you see, Swamiji reached there. It was sometime in July, and there was a gap of at least 1.5, nearly 2 months. There was a gap of, and Swamiji somehow would have to stay there with a kitty of $300 at his disposal that had been gifted to him by the Maharaja of Khetri, Ajit Singh, who was his disciple, a Rajput prince. Now $300 were getting spent very fast. He landed there in Chicago, and in the first 12 years in a very expensive hotel, $120 were gone, $10 a day. So Swamiji understood that 18 more days he could survive there, and there was no way he could really be there. Now, as it happened, when Swamiji had landed from Yokohama, I'll just tell you how he had gone. He had boarded the peninsular ship you could call it, liner, ocean liner from Bombay, and via many places, Penang, etc., and not going into the details, he had gone to Yokohama, and from there he had boarded the Empress of India, another liner, and landed in Vancouver. Vancouver was in Canada. Then on a 5-day trip by rail, he reached from Vancouver, he went to Chicago. There on that rail journey, he met a 54-year-old lady called Kate Sanborn, who was quite well known in America in those days, but Swamiji didn't know her. And this lady was so captivated by Swamiji's presence that while conversing, she said at the point of separation at Chicago, she said, if Swami, if ever you come to Boston, do let me know, wire me, and I would be only too glad to host you at my house at Metcalf near Boston, and there I can introduce you to a few of the leading lights of society. Now there it was, Swamiji had landed in Chicago and he was present anywhere. Let me tell you a little bit of details. He landed in Chicago, he had nowhere to go, so to say. He didn't know where to go because he didn't even know the address, nothing whatsoever. Only he had been told that, he got to know that it was the Parliament of Religions would open on the 11th of September. So there was time to be spent. First 12 days he spent at the Chicago Fair. He saw the inventions, and as his pocket was running out, he decided, he was very quick-witted, you see, not like us. He was very quick-witted. He asked some people where he could go, and they said Boston would be cheaper. So he boarded a train to Boston, and he had a very good memory. So he remembered Kate Sanborn, and when he boarded at the hotel there, Swamiji wired to Kate Sanborn that here I am, if you would like to meet me. So Kate Sanborn immediately said, come sharp today at 4:20 p.m. And Swamiji went to Breezy Meadows, a few miles off Boston, 35 miles off Boston, to the east of Boston, I guess, northeast of Boston, and he reached Breezy Meadows, and he was the guest of Kate Sanborn. Kate Sanborn introduced him to many people. Mostly people came to see an Indian curio, you see, clad in the orange, not what the Maharajas are wearing. Swamiji's was an orange robe. It was a silken robe with silken sash and all that, tresses and all, tassels, I'm sorry, not tresses, I'm sorry, tassels. And Swamiji was viewed as a curio. People used to come and view him, and then Swamiji was invited hither and thither to give small speeches. And one day, what happened, Swamiji was expressing his disappointment that he could not appear in the Chicago Parliament of Religions because Kate Sanborn told him that he had to have some, formal introduction, or at least he should have the delegates pass. Now Swamiji had just landed in America, imagining like he went from one village to another village, or from one princely state to another princely state in his Wande Jahare. Wande Jahare means what? In his travels. It's a German word. Wande Jahare. Wanderjahre. So he used to go like a mendicant monk, and India is a land of spirituality. People opened their doors. But America was a different ball game altogether. Everything is very structured. Okay, it doesn't happen that way. So Swamiji was feeling a little bit crestfallen as to what would happen. Would his divine mission fail? As Maharaj was pointing out, it was a divine mission. At that point of time, one day, Professor John Henry Wright, a professor of Greek history of Harvard University. All of you who are especially good in studies, please do not betray your country. Mine have. Of all I have taught in my life about 1,350 students, of which about 160 are very brilliant and 95% are settled in America. Thank you very much. I do not like it. Okay. And I don't believe in the global village theory. Okay. The global village, I believe, includes India also. So they could have stayed in India and served. But they chose to earn their bread and butter, a trifle too much of butter, in America. So please, I am expecting you people to read Swamiji and serve your country. Now, the Professor John Henry Wright came over, and they were over dinner having a talk and all. And Professor John Henry Wright was extremely impressed by Swamiji. Remember, John Henry Wright was himself said to be a man of encyclopedic learning. Can you hear me clearly? Okay. Encyclopedic learning. And here, a Harvard professor, even today, Harvard professors are something. I've got a student who studied at Harvard University, but he betrayed my motherland as well. And I am indirectly responsible for all these betrayals because I used to teach him 12 hours a day. There was a time I taught him for one full day, morning, not morning breakfast, afternoon lunch, evening meal, and maybe even morning breakfast. Okay. Trying to train him for Harvard University. Well, he did go to Harvard University and never came back. Except once he came back to hug me. That was his gift to his motherland. he gave me a very good hug and said, okay, then off I go to America. Unlike Swamiji, who had gone there with a mission, well, he had gone to give, they go to receive. I'm telling you especially, all these lectures that I'm giving is of no use. You should pledge to yourself that you will study hard. Only then you can understand Swamiji, because Swamiji once had said, as Maharaj says, I dribble a lot, but you people are 11 and 12. I'm giving a little bit of Garincha dribble, and I'm saying, unless you study hard, you cannot understand Swamiji. The Vedanta and Swamiji, these are not easy things. Swamiji had once said, I want young men, young English educated men, not fools. That is no aspersion to the vernacular. I'm not saying that is an aspersion to the vernacular. But in those days, Swamiji had said, to preach his message across the wide world, he needed young English educated men, not fools. Now the point is, you people, I'm not stressing on the point English, but I am stressing on the point young, educated and sincere to the backbone. Swamiji had said, muscles of iron, nerves of steel and a well-intelligent brain, and the whole world is at your feet. 100 such and the world becomes revolutionized. Once he went to, I'm going forwards and backwards, don't mind please, because I'm in the flow now. A couple of years after Chicago, I'll go back to Chicago, a couple of years after Chicago, that was in 1895 or 96, Swamiji went to London. And there in November 1895, there at West End, London, Swamiji was facing half a dozen British ladies, amongst which there was a very bright young lady called Margaret Elizabeth Noble, who later became Sister Nivedita. Now Swamiji was facing with his backside to the hearth. Hearth means the fireplace, and he was addressing these people. And I lost the thread of my talk. I lost the thread. I was about to say something. I lost the thread. Anyhow, coming back to the Chicago thing, I just lost the thread because I have a problem. My short-term memory, there are two types of memory, short-term and long-term. My STM is a little weak. I forget things very fast. And I never carry a note, that's because of ego. Swamiji never carried a note. Swamiji once said, সেদিন ডেট্রয়েটে 3 ঘন্টা ঝেড়ে দিলুম দাঁড়া ঝাঁপ বলার পর মনে হলো মধু তোর পেটে এত ছিল. So we are poor caricatures, the Xerox machines. So I always try to be a bad Xerox of Swamiji. That's why, and also Thakur had said, রাজর্ষির হাতে বই থাকে, রাজর্ষি রামমোহন রায়ের হাতে বই ছিল. So ব্রহ্মর্ষির হাতে বই থাকে না, আমি ব্রহ্মর্ষি নই, ব্রহ্মদত্তি, কিন্তু হাতে বই রাখি না ওই জন্য. So anyhow, so you did appreciate it. So Swamiji, what you call told, I'm now back at Metcalf in the breezy meadows where Swamiji and Professor John Henry Wright are conversing while they're having dinner. And Swamiji was asked by Professor, so Swami, how do you propose to go there now? Swami said, I didn't know that I don't have any, I don't have any permit, I don't have any passes, I don't have any delegate, I'm not a delegate as such, I didn't know all these things are necessary. But Swami, that's quite obvious, you would need it. I said, Swamiji said, that's true. Now what do? I don't think I'll make it. And then Professor John Henry Wright came to the fore and said, when Swamiji asked this question, but I have no credentials to speak. I have no credentials. And then Professor Wright said, Swami, asking you for credentials is asking the sun its right to shine. Asking the sun to state its right to shine. Asking you for credentials is asking the sun to state its right to shine. Never mind, I'll arrange for it. I know a few friends out there in Chicago. He knew the convener, Dr. Barrows, who was in charge of the selection of delegates committee. So he wrote a letter to Dr. Barrows, and in that he writes, here is a man more learned than all our learned professors put together. Now mind it please. I know a lady who is at Harvard University. They don't say MSc, they say MS. I visit her almost every other day. She's my mother's friend. She's 94-year-old. She is an anthropologist. I'm telling you about Swamiji. She's an anthropologist, and Calcutta University PhD, a faculty member of Asiatic Society, no more. I mean, she's still there, she's living, and in her senses. So I go to meet her. So yesterday I went over to meet her. I said, tomorrow I'm in a rather bit of a fix. Maharaj has really given me a crucial topic. I don't know where to begin, where to end. Fortunately, there are some young fools who are coming like me. Please don't mind, I'm just cracking a joke on you. Okay, they won't be knowing either too much. But the problem is the Maharajas, there'll be so many Maharajas and they'll be knowing, and later I'll be caught. Okay, and so please bless me. So she can't raise herself much. So I put my, head down. I said, you are a Harvard PhD. She corrected me, MS, Calcutta University PhD. And she blessed me. I said, have you blessed me? You have blessed me. I said, yes, I've blessed you. So then, I got emboldened by the blessing, and I thought, let me try a few fast ones on her. And I said, you are so old. What do you think? She said, nothing. I said, all blank. She said, nothing. I said, then do one thing. Think of Thakur all the time. And she looked at me, and she said, সব কিছু ঘুরছে. I thought her head is reeling. I said, শরীর ঠিক আছে? হ্যাঁ, সব কিছু ঘুরছে. তাহলে মানে? পৃথিবীটা ঘুরছে. সব ঘুরছে. তখন আমি ভাবলাম, কাকে ধর্ম শিক্ষা দিতে এসেছি? এ মহাকাশের সব ঘুরছে, ওই বিরাট চিত্র, আমি তাকে বলছি এখন ঠাকুরের চিন্তা করো, রক্ষে করো। আমি আর কোনো কথা না বলে আশীর্বাদটি নিয়ে চলে এলাম। So you see, preaching religion is like that. All of you are young, great people in the making. Now the point is, in fact, it's a privilege to come here. Not everybody is privileged to. Right now you may not be knowing. You are in the seat where Swamiji has sat. He has sat out here where you are sitting. Swamiji and all his brother disciples, they did their first formative years austerity at the Baranagar Mutt. When you grow up and you read more, if you are inclined to doing so, you'll know where you are sitting is what is called Tapobhumi.
First monastery of the Ramakrishna Modern Mission.
Right, it is the first monastery of the Ramakrishna Modern Mission, set up in 1886, Maharaj, yes, 1886, after Sri Ramakrishna's passing away on the 16th of August, 1886. So this is
September.
Yes, the Mutt started in September. This is a place aglow with fire. You cannot see it. There is a vibration palpable that is reaching you. Anyhow, going back to Chicago. So, Dr. Barrows wrote, John Henry Wright wrote the letter, and the day came when Swamiji landed in Chicago. This time with a letter in his pocket, bearing the letter of introduction that he would show. Now, when he landed there, in the train only, he met an Indian gentleman who said that he would guide him to the Chicago Parliament where the delegates would be lodged. He would guide him. But when the train landed at Chicago station, in the rush, he hurried off and he forgot all about it. And there Swamiji did not know what to do. So he searched in his pocket for the letter, and the pocket law was lost. Swamiji was a mendicant monk. He couldn't keep track of things, and often he would, in Chicago, one thing again I interspersed. When he used to, later he stayed 3 years in America. Sometimes he would board a tram car, and to go to a certain place. And he would fall into meditation, and his meditation was samadhi. You don't know what samadhi is, maybe. Transcendental state. He would be unconscious to the outer world. And he would pass that place, and he would reach the opposite end, the other terminus. So he would buy the ticket again, and he would come this time, and then get down, if he was lucky this time. Otherwise he would miss it again, and in the third attempt he would go to his place. That was it. So this Swamiji now, he has lost his letter, what to do, and he didn't know where to go in the freezing night. So he got an open coach box, and he slid into it, and he fell asleep. He said, to hell with Chicago and all, let me sleep. He hadn't slept well. So in the morning, he woke up with crumpled clothes and all, and he went out from street to street asking people, and he was mighty hungry. For 2 days he had not eaten. Remember, you may say 2 days, because trains used to take a mighty long time. They used to trudge at 15 kilometers per hour. They used to trudge. Okay. And so Swamiji went from road to road, street to street, avenue to avenue, seeking some food. And if anybody could help him with the address, I hope nobody is sleeping. I saw some time back one girl out there was sleeping, taking a very nice rest. Now she's awake. No, a lady, and now she is awake. Well, good. Thanks to, I must thank myself. I've woken you up. If I could not teach, I could at least break the sleep. Awake, awake. Swamiji used to say, I woke you up. Now, anyhow, so Swamiji went from door to door, and they were slamming the door in his face. They were slamming, maybe with abuses of you dirty nigger, maybe, never know. They were slamming the door in his face. And they didn't offer him any alms. I mean, they wouldn't cater to a beggar. And then gradually, Swamiji, tired, weary of the travel, without food, without hope, so to say, he had by then entered a very posh locality, and he sat down on the footpath and said, as we say, Aage Ram Jane. He sat down in the name of Ramakrishna, sat down. Presently, a lady came out from the opposite mansion, I should say, a big house, a palatial house. A lady came out. Her name was Mrs. Hale, Hale, and very providential. Hail Mary, we say Hail. Mrs. Hale, Hale. She came and asked, Swami, are you a delegate to the Chicago Parliament of Religions? And Swamiji said, yes, please come in. And she took Swamiji in, and she had 2 daughters and 2 other nieces, and the whole family treated Swamiji very well. He was given a bath, he was given ample breakfast, and then they themselves drove Swamiji, Mrs. Hale herself drove Swamiji to the Chicago, where the Oriental delegates were being housed. She drove and introduced, and Swamiji was accepted at long last as a delegate. Now remember, without the letter, but one letter had already arrived, directly sent by Professor Wright to the Chicago Parliament. So on the basis of that and Mrs. Hale's intervention, Swamiji was accepted. A few days were left, maybe a couple of days were left, and when Swamiji arrived on the fateful day, the 11th of September, 1893, a moment crystallized in time, the junction point of the past and the present, of reason and realization, of science and religion, of the East and the West. At that point, a point frozen for all time, I should say, stood Swami Vivekananda, as if in his personality, history had come to a halt. And there he was, among 7,000 people who had flocked to the Art Institute of Chicago. He was one amongst, as Maharaj said, 60 delegates. And he froze with fear. He had never addressed anybody of that size. A few people he had addressed. And as the names were being announced, and every time the committee went over, wishing that Swamiji should now speak, Swamiji kept on, pushing it, till the Vesper hour was reached. Many years later, on the 4th of July 1902, past the Vesper hour, at 10 minutes past 9, Swamiji had taken his flight to his heavenly abode, I mean eternal abode, for the last time. This was another Vesper hour, 9 years earlier. 1893, 11th of September, it was the Vesper hour when the Rag Yaman is sung in India. When the cowherd boys, Gopa Sakha, they all come crossing the Yamuna. When the birds fly to their nests at that Vesper hour, 14,000 miles away from home, stood Vivekananda. He was now beckoned. The person, Dr. Barrow, straight announced that the next speaker is Swami Vivekananda. There was no way he could do anything about it. Swamiji rose, strode like a lion across the platform, stood there, bowed down in his mind to Mother Saraswati, and began to speak. And the first 4 words have encapsulated what is to be the history of the future world. Sisters and brothers of America, it fills my heart with joy unspeakable to rise in response to the warm welcome you have accorded me. I come to you in the name of the most ancient order of monks and in the name of the mother of religions. And he went on. But before that, the moment he had said, sisters and brothers of America, a thunderous applause broke out. If you today clap me, maybe your clap will last for 2 seconds, 5 seconds. I once clapped for 2 minutes to find out. It was a 2-minute clapping that went on. It's an on and on like the Mexican wave that you see. And for Sisters and Brothers of America was met with 2-minute clapping. In rows they clapped. 7,000 of them. And when the clapping had ended, America had been won before the speech had begun. I say America had been won before the speech had begun. And Swamiji just spoke for 1.5 minutes or so. And then he sat down exhausted. The climactic moment had passed. The mission of Ramakrishna had begun in the West. As Swamiji had said, the Buddha had a message for the East, and I have a message for the West. The message had sounded in the West. Years later, not even a year, just over a year later, in the Manhattan Islands in New York, Swamiji grouped 12 disciples of his, initially 10, later 2, and he housed them in somebody's house there. It was called the Thousand Island Park, and there he taught a group of students, devoted band of students. And some time back it had rained. I think all of you had noticed it. Did you? It suddenly started raining, and I feared that the rain would come in. I didn't know that it's quite well done. And initially I looked up. It started raining. There at Thousand Island Park one day, it was raining very hard. It was raining very, very hard. When at around 9 o'clock or so in the evening, 2 ladies, Christine Greenstidle and Mary Funke, they arrived and they knocked on the door. Before doing so, they inquired at the base of a small hillock where a tea shop owner, some shop owner was there, and they asked if a Hindu monk is preaching up there somewhere. And the person said, yes, up there, some queer people, some queer folks are there, you see, you can go up there. And these 2 went up to climbed that hillock, and there they knocked on the door, and they were dripping wet. It was very, very rainy, and the door was opened by none other than Swami Vivekananda. And one of the 2 said, "Oh Swami, we have come through 5 days from Detroit, across all inclement weather, including this rain, and we have come to you as we would have gone to our master had he been alive today." And what did Swamiji reply? And if only I had the power to release you unto freedom this very moment, they were welcomed. Anyhow, the Chicago lectures were over. Swamiji gave about 12 lectures, of which 5 are recorded. You can read these in the Chicago Addresses, they are available. You can read them online also. In the complete works of Swamiji, you can read online. And after these lectures, Swamiji became a celebrity. His fame spread to India as well. And Swamiji, hang on please. because they were getting distracted. No, so Swamiji gave 5 lectures. I'm sorry, Swamiji gave 12 lectures. And just before I finish, because I won't take too long, because the Vesper hour is coming here also. So when Maharaj tells me to stop, I'll stop. Maharaj, give me a minute before stopping, you tell me. Okay. So you see, Swamiji gave these lectures, they're recorded. In those days, audio recording had begun, but 3-minute recording was not possible. 2 of the recordings of Swamiji are there, 2 separate recordings, and they have been tracked down by Swami Prabhananda, the Vice President of the Mutt, of the Ramakrishna Mutt and Mission. I had a talk with him in 2007 about this. But as yet they have not been, verified to be Swamiji's this thing, because you need the recordings from 2 different sources. But the Chicago lectures are not recorded. Fortunately, we have got 5 of the speeches in writing. And they are wonderful. In fact, the best part of the Chicago lecture, although we always speak about Sisters and Brothers of America, that's the first thing. But the best lecture of the Chicago Parliament of Religions, out of those 5, was read out. It was a paper. It was a paper read out by Swamiji. Though you're in class 11, I am sure you know what a paper is, a scientific paper, a research paper. A paper is much more worth than a book. For example, Albert Einstein published his paper on the special theory of relativity in the Annalen der Physik in 1905. So a paper is worth more than a book. Paper carries original research. Books are written after the paper, taking material from the papers. And Swamiji had written a paper. This is one of the few writings we get of Swamiji, because generally he always spoke extempore or impromptu. This paper he wrote on Hinduism. It's called the paper on Hinduism, and he delivered this lecture on the 19th of September 1893. In this paper, he has delineated the entire, you see the magnum opus of, it's a magnum opus, I mean his everything is there in. He has delineated the whole gamut of ideas that include, and that may be included in Hinduism. And I don't know how he managed it. He has almost presented everything in a small paper, about 10 pages. I don't think you will be able to understand it, because I am still understanding it. My understanding began when I was 22 and now I'm 58. 3 dozen years have passed. I am still understanding it. It's a very difficult paper. You could try it. And that is a very, very important paper. In fact, Sister Nivedita, Swamiji's great disciple, about whom I won't speak now, but you should be knowing because you are students of history, her contributions to the freedom movement you know. So Sister Nivedita, and of course many other fields, in every field, and that you don't know. Jagadish Chandra Bose you have heard of. Jagadish Chandra Bose's all the papers that Jagadish Chandra Bose wrote, they were Nivedita's writings. The material was Jagadish Chandra Bose, the couching in the words were Nivedita's. Nivedita is a genius par excellence, and you don't get such personality. We don't speak of Nivedita, she seems to be in the shadow of Swamiji. Really she seems, but if Nivedita had arrived on her own in a different era, she would have been somebody. Anyhow, debatable though, without Swamiji, could she have been somebody? Debatable. Now, however, so, now you must tell me, what was I saying?
The paper that Swamiji said.
Oh yes, STM, short-term memory. So you see, the paper, in that paper, and Nivedita writes, when Swami Vivekananda rose to speak, it was on the essential points of Hinduism. I repeat, when Swami Vivekananda rose to speak, it was on the essential points of Hinduism. And when he had finished, Hinduism had been created. C. Rajagopalachari, a freedom fighter, our first Governor General after Lord Mountbatten, in independent India, the first Indian Governor General, has said, Vivekananda saved Hinduism and with it saved India. Nivedita says Vivekananda created Hinduism. There is a shlok in Sanskrit, Shabda Jalang, Maharanyam, Chitta Vibhrama Karanam. Shabda Jalang, Maharanyam, Chitta Vibhrama Karanam. the vast network of words. The vast network of words is like a huge forest in which the soul gets deluded and lost. Out of most intricate philology and philosophy and mythology, Swami Vivekananda had to cull out the essential points of Hinduism and present them in modern terms, in scientific terms, in reasonable terms before the world at large, in a language so foreign to his own, the language being English, in which some of the Sanskrit terms are untranslatable. And he had to do it, and he did it in a manner not like I am doing in high-flown English. He did it in a manner which even a baby like me can understand. And so can you understand. I will not take any more of your time because right now you are on a high, I can see it in your mind. And therefore I will end my brief, eventful discourse, I should say, and hand over the microphone to Maharaj to give the coup de grace to it. Thank you.
Thank you, Sri Sugata Bose. Thank you for this engaging and excellent speech in chaste English. We thank you. Thank you, students and teachers of Aditya Academy Senior Secondary School. We convey our hearty thanks to you, and wasting no more time, we will end our program with Pranam Mantra to Swami Vivekananda. Om Namah Shri Yatirajaya Vivekananda Suraye Satchit Sukha Swarupaya Swamine Tapaharane. Om